Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are on the record in case number 2025-00064, electronic application of Summershade LLC for a certificate of construction for an approximately 106 megawatt merchant electric solar generating facility in Metcalfe County, Kentucky. My name is Angie Hatton. I'm chair of the Kentucky Public Service Commission. Joining me today is Commissioner Andrew Wood. Commissioner Regan is out this week, but we'll be reviewing the record before we make our decision. We also have siting board members joining us remotely. We have John Lyons, who is Deputy Secretary of the Energy and Environment Cabinet, who serves as proxy for Secretary Rebecca Goodman. And we also have Jansen Hammock, who serves as proxy for Jeff Noel, the Secretary of the Economic Development Cabinet. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Good. All right, thanks. At this time, I would ask everybody to please set your cell phones to silent or turn them off. I just practiced what I preached and put mine on silent. The hearing today is for the purpose of taking evidence in this matter. At this time, let's have
Members, my name is Todd Osterloh with Sturgill, Turner, Barker & Maloney, representing the applicant, Summershade Solar, LLC. We we believe 8 witnesses today: Richard Kirkland, Paul Coombs. We've also identified Jim Woodruff as a potential witness. At this point in time, I don't anticipate that he'll be called. He hasn't sponsored data responses or other information, but in case there's some...
I understand public notice has been given and filed in the record. Is that correct?
Confidential treatment that will be addressed shortly after the final order.
All right. I have not received notification that there's any online for the purpose of giving public comment. Till the time we make our decision by sending an email to psc.s24 hours. Correct, under penalty of perjury.
I do.
Thanks. Please have a seat and tell us your full name and business address.
Richard Charles Kirkland Jr., 9408 North Appraisals, LLC.
And what is your title there?
Owner.
And did you sponsor a property analysis?
I would make is to update my credentials. I've, since completing this report, completed the...
And do you adopt the information that's contained in that report as your testimony here today?
I do.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's all the questions I have.
We've used a combination of sale-resale analysis, which is where we look at sale of a property next to a solar PAME zip code would have. We also did matched pair analysis, which is comparison of home sales next to a solar project to similar homes that sold in the same time frame that are not next to a solar farm, so we could test to see if there's anything there. We also interviewed brokers, did a survey of assessors, and reviewed literature on the subject.
Now, as far as your sale-resale analysis versus your comparative analysis, is one better than the other, or are they just used for a different type of comparison?
The sale-resale analysis I consider to be a better form of analysis because there's no appraiser judgment involved in it. It's just 2 factual sales points, and we compare it to the FHFA Home Price Index. So really, anyone looking at it should come up. They might cite it to a different index, but essentially everyone would come up with very similar to the exact same number.
What was your ultimate conclusion as far as this solar facility would have a property value impact on adjacent or adjoining homes?
It's my conclusion this project has sufficient setbacks and screens to protect property values and that there would be no impact on adjoining property value.
In your analysis, were you able to look at the other solar facilities that have actually been built here in Kentucky and compare those sales since the facilities have been built?
We have examples in Kentucky of just that, yes.
And what was your closest setback as far as those comparisons? Because in this project, there are several homes that are in close vicinity of the solar facility. Were any of those that you looked at were as close as this one?
I'll have to check. I can tell you off the top of my head that in the overall data set, we have homes as close as 100 feet. The closest home we had in this project was 155 feet. So we do have examples closer than that. Whether or not we have them that close specifically in Kentucky, I have to check. Under the sale-resale analysis, Closest I see is 250 feet, and under matched pairs, I have, in adjoining states, I have some as close as 155 feet, which would be the same distance. And I believe that would be the closest I had from those. From the broker comments, I also have broker comments as close as 145 feet, showing no impact on property value. That was actually in Ohio, an adjoining state, not Kentucky.
What distance did you find, or through your past reports that you've submitted from other projects, what was the actual closest distance when you did start seeing an impact on property values?
I have not actually seen a negative impact on property values, but I have as far as the closest home sale that I've identified that I could do analysis on was at 100 feet. So it's not that I've seen sales at 50 feet that showed a negative impact, or 80 feet or anything like that. We haven't found one, but that, again, 100 feet is the closest sale we've identified.
This proposed project is going to be very close to, in proximity to Clover Creek, which is a project that's already built. Have you looked at the cumulative effects of having two solar facilities within close location, of how that would impact the home value?
We haven't specifically looked at that aspect of it, but numerous projects that we've looked at have other projects around them. So we could probably suss that out, but at the moment, we have looked at projects like that, and again, we're still not finding any negative impacts, whether it's at projects, whether it's multiple projects in the area, or even in some cases just overly large. We've looked at projects as large as 1,000 megawatts, which would be much larger than the cumulative impact of several, 100 or 200 megawatt projects.
No further questions, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Wood?
I don't have any questions for the witness.
Good morning, Mr. Kirkland.
Good morning.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you. I hope you're doing well.
Good. Remembering that you're under oath. You do a lot of these appraisals, various states and jurisdictions across the country, is that right?
I do.
Okay. Have you ever found a negative impact from a solar facility?
Well, even including the data that's in this report, there are examples of negative impacts included in the data set. So we find negative impacts, we find positive impacts, and we find a whole bunch of neutral impacts. The breakdown varies depending on which set of data I look at, because for like Kentucky, I'm looking at Kentucky and adjoining states. But when I look at depending on which area I'm at, typically we find about 5 to 7% of the data points show a negative impact. Around 10 to 20% of the data points show positive impacts. And that leaves still 70+% showing no impact. So that is where everything seems to be circling right around that. And we focus on where the bulk of the data is.
So when you find a negative impact, what tends to cause that? Do we know?
There's not anything different or unique. It's not that those homes are closer. It's, again, it goes back to one of the things we talk about in the report, which is market imperfection. And that's just, real estate is a very imperfect market. You always talk about, well, if I had two identical homes, and I would pick this one versus that one. Well, there aren't two identical homes. It's not like going to Walmart and choosing which box doesn't look, your preference. So real estate is always something like something else. It's never identical. And so you get a lot of market deviation in there. A recent study put out by the American Society of Farm Managers, Rural Appraisers, they looked at I believe it was three appraisers looking at 3 different time points appraising the exact same farm. They wound up having about 9 different appraisals done by these same appraisers, and in each one the variation in value for each time point was as much as 20%. So plus or minus 10% was the deviation they were finding in that. And we're looking at market deviations of 5% in my reports. So again, there is, especially in rural areas, a significant amount of market imperfection.
So it matters when you sell it.
It has no, these were appraisers appraising it, and the appraisers were coming up with different values based on slightly different interpretation of the data. So again, market imperfection leads to those conclusions because you have real estate professionals, brokers, buyers and sellers. Again, and buyers and sellers will make choices based on their preferences, but also based on just, there's a tree in that backyard that reminds me of my grandfather's tree. Again, you're going to wind up with things that you just can't measure.
So that 5 to 7% that had a negative impact, it's hard to pinpoint that that was specifically about solar. It could have been the color of the house or the time it was on the market.
It could have been, again, I mean, again, I'm married to someone who wouldn't buy a house once because the front door was painted red. Again, paint's cheap, but again, there's an emotional response sometimes that happens. That is market imperfection in my mind. I've always thought of it in those terms.
Okay. I think that's all the questions I have. Any redirect?
Do we want to see, I don't know if Mr. Lyons or Mr. Hammack?
Thank you. So sorry about that. Deputy Secretary, do you have any questions?
No questions for me, Madam Chair. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Hammack?
No questions for me, Madam Chair. Thanks.
All right. I'll have better manners the rest of the day, I promise. All right. Any reason this witness can't be excused? You are the lead witness, or not the lead witness, just happened to go first.
Correct,
Okay.
correct, yeah.
You're excused, sir.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Call your next
And
witness.
our next witness will be Dr. Paul Coombs.
Good morning, how you doing?
Good morning.
Welcome back. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
I sure do.
Thank you. Please have a seat. Tell us your full name and business address.
Name and full address, please.
Paul Coombs, 3604 Trail Ridge Road, Louisville, 40241.
And you are a professor emeritus from the University of Louisville in economics, is that correct?
That's correct.
And did you prepare a report, an economic analysis report that was filed in this case?
I did.
Did you likewise sponsor at least one response to a data request?
I did.
And do you have any changes to the information that was contained in that analysis or in that data response?
No, sir.
Do you adopt the information that was contained therein as your testimony here today?
I do.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
All right, staff?
Just a couple questions for you, Dr. Coombs. As far as the real economic benefit, do you feel that this project, is that going to be on the local level, the state level? Where will this impact be felt, economic impact be felt the most?
So I really focused on the local impact on Metcalfe County and somewhat the adjoining counties. And the reason I do that instead of looking at a statewide impact, if that's kind of your question, is then you get into issues of, are these really new dollars in the state? It could be that a solar facility is displacing an older fossil fuel plant somewhere else, which would have actually many more jobs than a solar facility because they're using fossil fuels, for the life of the project, whereas a solar project just takes sunshine and doesn't need coal or natural gas or any other inputs. So that's why I don't like to call these statewide impacts, because you may be displacing another energy source somewhere in the state. Whereas in the county, there is no other power plant there, so it's actually new dollars going to that county.
I know you have been doing these reports for a while now, and so there have been new facilities that have been approved that are now operational. Have you had the opportunity to go back and look at the economic impact on the local level for those projects that have been built to determine if the numbers were comparable to what was projected or forecasted?
The short answer is no. We've discussed this several times before. It's a great question, and probably you don't want to hear me repeat what we did at least a hearing or two ago about the problem with micro data. We really just don't have granular public data available at the local level like that to determine cause and effect. You can look back at sort of the history of jobs or payroll in a county in total, but you don't know whether it was caused by a solar facility or something else that happened in the county. You would actually need access to micro data at the company level, which is confidential. The only thing I could suggest if we wanted to dig into that would be to try to get deputized to look at the unemployment insurance records, which are highly confidential. But sometimes you can get deputized, researchers can, to look at those, and then you can see the name of the company, you can see the location, you can see their payroll because they have to pay an insurance premiums tax on that payroll. You can see even the social security numbers of the people working there. That would be the way you would answer your question, but as far as I know, no one's ever done that, certainly not in Kentucky.
So if you went back and looked at like the operational tax and how much that increased, why the facility was actually, those years that it was actually being built, would that tell you anything? Is that not helpful?
You just don't know if the solar project caused it or something else in the county caused it. Whether it might, you may have growth due to a solar farm construction project, and the county occupational taxes might go down because of something else that happened, a plant closure or whatever. So at the macro level, you just can't determine cause and effect. Sorry. It's a great question, and I wish I had a better answer for you.
No further questions, Chair.
All right, thanks. Deputy Secretary?
No questions, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Mr. Hammack?
Thank you, Chair. I just have two questions, Dr. Coombs. One of these is just kind of educational for the public record, if you don't mind. I know that IRBs and TIFs, kind of it's based upon an individual agreement, so they do vary, of course, but I was wondering if you could just kind of give us a general overview of how that may impact tax revenues for a project like this. Is there kind of a directional effect, and just in general what it looks like?
So if I understood your question, you just wanted an overview of the methodology on measuring these? Yes. So we start out with an estimate of the construction jobs related to so much megawatt capacity of a solar project. In all of the studies I've done, which are 12 or 15 of them, I've used that California Berkeley study that looked at a half dozen very large utility scale solar projects there 8 or 10 years ago, and they had really good data, unlike here, on the company's payroll, construction, operations jobs. And so I used that to scale down to this project, which I think is 106 megawatts, to predict the construction employment and also the operations employment. So that's called the direct effect, right, of the construction and the operations. Then we use a model, M-Plan model, which is the most widely used regional input-output modeling system in the world. It's quite good. I've been using it for 20 years, and before that I used 2 or 3 other versions or methodologies that are similar and published in this area, actually. But just at a high level, these models have information about up a little over 500 industries in every county, or potentially 500 industries, and not every county has them all, obviously. But it has information about how much every industry purchases from every other industry, and then also how much the new payroll for households adds to economic activity through personal consumption in that county. So it's very fine-grained information. It's models as opposed to microdata, but it's very detailed, I guess is my point, and capable of predicting any spin-off impacts. So just to sort of wrap that little seminar up, in this case, Metcalfe County and many of the counties I've looked at do not have enough industrial base there. Certainly they don't make the solar panels themselves, and they may not make a lot of the other things that go into construction. So the spin-off impacts are quite low. And I think the job multiplier in this case was only something like 1.1, which is about as low as it gets, because the local economy is not supplying many of the things needed for the construction. When you go to operations, we do think that more of the operations jobs will be based there, and so you do get a good payroll, on site in that county. So is that enough, or you want me to keep going?
Yeah, absolutely. The only one question I had kind of following up on that, and you may not have the direct answer. I know that IRBs are different based on kind of what's in the agreement, but in general, how does that impact like that analysis as far as what the tax revenue ends up being? Does it reduce it? How much should we generally looking at with that?
You're talking about industrial revenue bonds? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So as far as I know, there is not one here yet. As far as I know, I don't think there is one, but the way it works is the company could basically put the property in the name of the county. So the county would temporarily own the property, which means it's exempt from property taxes. So that saves the company financing cost, right? Then on the other hand, the company would often make a payment in lieu of taxes to make up for the lost property tax revenue, particularly to the schools. And I think that was in the property tax projection for this project. I could look up the numbers, but it was in the millions that would go to the state and to the local governments. In the case of an IRB, it was a little higher without an IRB, the amount going to the local governments. The data are in my report towards the end of the tax section. I can't remember exactly the numbers.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. I just kind of wanted to get that on public record as far as kind of what the impact is, just so anybody that has a question about what an IRB is and how it works. So thank you so much for taking the time to explain that. And then the only other question I have is just here you kind of discuss a little bit sheep grazing, kind of the impact that may have on jobs created. And so I just wanted to clarify and make sure I understood it right. Those sheep grazing numbers are based on the acres of land at the site. Is that correct?
Yes. However, I did not include that in my economic analysis. I just added that at the end because it came up as a possibility, and so I just put some discussion in there. There is developing a literature on sheep grazing. I think you have to be careful there, though, because so it's certainly true that if you put sheep out to do the mowing, basically, you would need a shepherd or two to follow the flock, and there would be some economic activity. I think it's called, the term being used now is agrivoltaics. So you're basically substituting crops and cattle. You're substituting sheep for other kinds of agricultural activity. But the reason I caution you on that is if the sheep are doing the mowing, that means that tractors are not doing the mowing, right? So you're actually substituting sheep for tractors and mowers and weed eaters that would have to be used, which I've already baked into the operational budget. So I think I discussed that towards the end. But anyway, I did not include any estimate of the economic importance or value of sheep in this project in my report.
Thank you so much, Dr. Coombs. Those are all the questions I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Wood?
I'm going to ask a couple of questions if you don't mind. So regarding industrial revenue bonds, are there actually any bonds being issued in a case like that?
Is there what being issued?
Are there actually bonds being issued?
Oh, well, there are around the state. I just don't think there has been for this project. So yes, other solar projects have used IRBs.
Would the county or any local governments be responsible for those bonds if the borrower failed to pay for the indebtedness?
I'm not sure how that works out financially. And one thing I didn't add to his question was, I said that the state would take ownership temporarily of the property, and that would put it in tax exempt status. I failed to say that the company's still responsible for the debt service, as you pointed out. So now what happens if the company defaults on the bonds? I don't know. You'd have to get a tax attorney in here to explain how messy that gets.
I get it. If that's not your area, I don't
No.
want you to go into answer a question that you're not comfortable with. Could you discuss the positive impacts of a project like this? And also, after that, I'm going to ask you to discuss the negative impacts, if any.
So the positive impacts are The construction, which is basically a year, generates several hundred jobs, including a few spin-off jobs, some payroll, that there's a 1% occupational tax in the county. So the county fiscal court would pick up, I can't remember, $200,000 or $300,000 in fresh occupational taxes one time. Two other positive impacts. So for the life of the project, there would be 3 or 4 operations jobs averaging $90,000, $100,000 apiece. And the county those jobs would likely be by residents of the region or the county. And the county fiscal court would pick up those occupational taxes. And then probably the major fiscal impact is the enhanced property taxes generated, because farmland is taxed at a very low level. I looked up these parcels. I think there's 16 parcels involved, and they only generate about $10,000 a year total in property taxes a year. So the solar facility, because the property will be partly real estate, partly a lot of commercial property, it will get assessed at a much higher value, and then these higher property tax rates would kick in, and it's going to generate millions of dollars over 30 years in new property taxes for the county, for the state, and particularly for the school board. The negative, also, by the way, also the lease payments going to the however many landowners are involved. There was 16 parcels. I'm not sure how many landowners, but they will receive, I estimated $750 an acre. I'm not privy to the contractual amounts. I've never seen the lease agreements, but that's a ballpark estimate I've seen nationally for rural areas, similar settings. So it becomes a nice income to those landowners there, and that creates, a little bit of spin-off activity in the county. So those are the positive things. The only negative thing really is the loss of farm activity. There's 730 or 40 acres, I believe, inside the fence that'll get taken out of agricultural activity. I think there's another 700 or 800 acres surrounding. I'm not sure how those leases are structured, whether they're temporary. It's not the solar panels, but it's supporting infrastructure that the company may need. You have people from the company here that could tell you exactly how much of that they're going to need. So there's probably even more lease income than I estimated. I'm not sure about the how much more agricultural activity there is outside the fence, but my models using U.S. Census of Agricultural data on crop and cattle activity in the county scaled down to this site, I estimated it was only 4 or 5 farming jobs would be lost because of it. So I think that's the only negative, is the loss of some agricultural activity. And by the way, our models did predict the negative spin-off activity of the lost agricultural activity. So when farmers buy feed and seed, fertilizer and tractor equipment and so on, that's built in. The model predicts the amount of local purchases of inputs for farming. That's included in my estimates.
Very well.
I think that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Talked about 4 to 5 farming jobs potentially lost, $10,000 in property tax currently being charged for these properties. What is it being used for now? Do you know?
What was the what?
What is it being used for now? Is someone farming it?
Well, much of it, yeah. It's you can see the photograph that I put in the report. I'm sure they have much better photographs than me, but yeah, there's a lot of cropland and cattle grazing, and of course a lot of timber, and a lot of it not used. I don't have an exact breakout, but
Okay.
yes. So, but in Kentucky and probably most places, farmland has a fair market value that's reported by the Property Valuation Administrator, but then there's the farm value of the property, which is much lower, And so the tax rates apply to that agricultural use value, and that's why it's only $10,000. I mean, I pulled the actual property tax records on all 16 parcels and added it up, and so I saw their tax bill for all 16 parcels. It was only $10,000, which, you know, that would be equivalent to 2 or 3 homes in Louisville or Lexington would generate that much money. So it's just, and that's typical of the projects I've looked at in rural areas. There's just not much property taxes being generated under agricultural use.
Your estimate is that it would bring about $6.3 million over 30 years?
Yes, now I got that from a tax attorney who did the actual, and I know the basic ideas, but you really need a tax attorney to translate the capital expenditures of the company into different buckets. It's pretty complicated, whether it's manufacturing machinery, whether it's real estate, fixed stuff. If it's manufacturing machinery, which much of it is considered in Kentucky, it's exempt from local taxes. So it's only taxed at the state level. So I relied upon a tax attorney for those projections about the new property taxes going to local governments and to state government, both with an IRB and without an IRB.
Okay, so the 6.3 million includes an estimate of the property tax
Yes.
increase. Anything else included in that 6.3?
No, that's just a
That's all
property
property
tax
tax.
projection, right. That's not the occupational tax.
And 30 years was the period?
30 years.
Okay. Last I had seen in the record, we did not have an IRB or a pilot project. There hasn't been one executed yet, right?
Not as far as I know.
So at this point, we're still just looking at local taxes unless something like that is created?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, that's all the questions I have. Any redirect?
No redirect.
All right. Any reason why this witness couldn't be excused?
No, Chair.
All right, thank you, sir. You're excused. Would you like to call your next witness?
Our next witness is Aubrey Muse.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You already have your right hand raised. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury? Please be seated. Tell us your full name and your business address.
Name is Aubrey Faith Muse. Business address is 500 Sansom Street, San Francisco, California.
Counselor.
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Muse.
Good morning.
By whom are you employed?
I'm employed by Candela Renewables.
And what is your title there?
I'm a manager of development.
Can you describe to the siting board what your role is in this project?
So in this project, I was the lead developer. That just means I'm coordinating a team of different experts ranging from permitting experts to transmission experts, engineering experts, to assist in the full suite development of the project.
Did you sponsor information that was provided in the application in this case, as well as sponsor responses to data requests?
Yes.
Do you have any changes to that information that hasn't otherwise been provided to the siting board?
Not at this time.
Do you adopt that information as your testimony here today?
I do.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have at this time.
Thank you. Staff.
If I ask you any questions and you're unable to answer them because there's a better witness, just let me know and I will direct that question to the appropriate witness, okay?
Okay.
A revised site plan was filed in this case on May 16th. Also on that day, there was a motion filed regarding setbacks. Is the revised site plan the most up-to-date site plan? Because the motion had the context map that was used in the original application. Which one is the most up-to-date site plan for this case?
So the most up-to-date site plan should be that revised site plan.
Do you expect this to be the final site plan, or do you expect any more changes?
There should be final changes, so this is just preliminary design. There would be a final design issued before construction.
What type of potential changes or updates to this site plan could you foresee in the future?
Mainly with infrastructure inside the fence, if we needed to move some of the panels around to accommodate, different setbacks, if we needed to change the location of any access roads, there may be slight adjustments to those features. We don't expect large material changes.
What month and year do you anticipate that construction will begin?
I think I would defer the exact answer to the project engineer, but we're anticipating no sooner than Q1 of next year for construction start, and then no sooner than Q3 of 2027 for operations to start.
How many months do you anticipate that construction will take?
Between 14 and 18 months.
How many months do you anticipate that peak construction will take?
I'll give that one to the project engineer. I'll let him discuss.
Okay, is that Mr. Tovar?
Yes, ma'am.
I've seen in a couple of documents that the operational life is ranging from 30 to 40 years. Is it 30 or 40, or do you think it's going to be in that range, or does it depend?
I'll give that to the project engineer too. My understanding is it really is the range between 30 and 40.
How many participating landowners do we have for this project?
So we have 24 individuals, but those are separated into 11 landowner groups. I would say some of those are married couples, some are sibling groups, and then a couple of individual owners.
Could you explain to the siting board a little bit about the MV collection system for this project? Is it going to be underground or above ground?
It could be either. I'd say project engineer would also have
Okay.
the better answer on that.
Would you describe this project as a contiguous project or a non-contiguous project?
I would describe it as contiguous. So the parcels that are leased themselves are all contiguous. Because of the terrain in this area, it's rolling, and because of some of the constraints that we found on site, the actual array areas are distributed in nature, but those would all be interconnected by that MV collection system.
And you just spoke a little bit about some of the site constraints. What type of site constraints did you find regarding this project?
A lot of it's terrain-based, so some of the slope and we wanted to minimize grading across this project, so we've chosen not to build on some of those higher slope areas just to avoid really extensive grading. So that's one of the reasons for the distributed layout of the PV area. Some of the other constraints we've mapped include karst in the area that we've chosen to avoid and build around.
And so going a little bit back to that, the total project acreage is 1,535 acres, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you're building on only 737 acres, is that accurate?
So in the acreage inside the fence line, that would be that 737 acres. The actual footprint of the arrays would be less than that.
Okay. And is that less than that because of some of the issues that you have regarding the topography of the land?
Some of the topography issues, then some of the setbacks of the arrays from the fence, or some of those buffer areas around the karst that we've chosen not to build over.
Are there any structures that are going to be demolished during construction?
We expect there will be. There's some old barns that are already in disrepair across the site, so with landowner permission, we would likely take those down.
And so on those that need to be demolished, are those all on participating landowners'
Yes, ma'am.
land? Okay. Do you have an idea of when the stormwater pollution prevention plan will be complete?
Prior to construction.
Okay. And how does that come into effect, or how is that applicable as far as developing your site plan for flooding if the plan hasn't been developed yet?
My understanding is in its development, we would work off of its conclusions to make sure that the final site plan does account for any requirements that need to be met.
How was it determined what areas needed vegetative screening?
A lot of that was based off of both conversations with surrounding landowners and also just recognizing where we were proposing the facility to be closer to some of those neighboring residences and making sure that in addition to the setbacks, we've proposed that they were also going to be adequately screened with ample vegetation.
What type of vegetative screening are you proposing? Are you proposing trees and shrubs or a combination of both?
Okay, I defer that to Mr. Kelly.
Is he the better witness regarding vegetative screening and what
Yes,
types?
ma'am.
Okay. Do you know the spacing between the rows of panels?
I'll give that to the project engineer for a better answer.
Is there going to be mesh coating on the fence?
We're not planning any mesh coating on the fence.
What is going to be the ground cover for the panels?
I'll also give that to the project engineer. Are you looking for a ratio?
Are you able to give us any information regarding the sheep grazing and how that whole project is going to work?
I can describe, the contents of the agreement are confidential, but I can describe,
Let's say, like, how often is that going to be year-round? They're going to be sheep on the project? How often are they going to be there every day? Just
yeah, so, with the family that we've discussed this agreement with, they're experienced sheep grazers, so they actually already have a flock that, lives adjacent to the site. So the idea there is they would move their sheep onto the project at the times that it would need to be grazed. Whether that's, 3 times a year, 4 times a year, may depend on rainfall, but the idea being that the forage for the sheep is there whenever they would need it, and it's a mutually beneficial service for both them and us.
are the access roads to this project expected to be gravel?
Yes, ma'am.
And so this project does have a lot of access roads. How, why so many for this project?
We do have, again, a lot of distributed array areas, but I would have to defer that to the project engineer too for the design specifics.
Will the project substation have its own separate fencing?
Yes, ma'am.
Have there been any requests to add or change any vegetative screening to this project?
We did have one landowner who actually requested not to have vegetative screening, just one instance of that though.
How, do you recall what landowner, not his name, but as far as the distance that landowner was to the actual solar arrays?
I don't, I'd have to go back and look at the actual mapping.
How many acres are going to be cleared?
I think we're planning for 138 acres of clearing, but we've studied up to 246. Mr. Kelly can give the reason why that is.
In the application, there were several pictures of the visual impact assessment of what the solar arrays would look like proposed and after a couple of years, after the vegetative screening or the trees have been built. Would you be able to provide a visual assessment for those homes that are the closest to the solar arrays?
Yeah, we could provide that.
What environmental studies have been completed?
I'll give that to Witness Kelly as well.
Okay. What karst issues have you found with this site?
I'll defer that to the project engineer who's led the
Okay.
car studies.
According to some of the documents and the data responses, the battery energy storage system is going to be monitored 24/7. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Where is that monitoring going to occur?
I'll also give that to the project engineer to
Okay.
discuss in detail.
Okay. In staff request 1, item 17, it indicated that Summer Shade has already hosted some training sessions for Metcalfe County Volunteer Fire Department. Is that accurate?
Yes, ma'am.
Are there any more training sessions that are going to occur? If so, how often?
Yeah, we've committed to any training sessions at their request, absolutely before construction when we do have a final design. And yes, we did engage with the Metcalfe County Fire Department, presentation led by some fire experts, safety response experts out of Louisville to discuss both solar safety and the battery storage system.
There is no planning and zoning in Metcalfe County, is that correct?
Correct.
There are no setback requirements as far as that been established by planning or zoning or a local ordinance, correct?
Correct.
Could you describe to the siting board a little bit about, because there's no planning and zoning commission there, what type of community engagement or what type of contact you've had with the local officials there?
Yes, we were in very close contact with the judge executive as well as members of the fiscal court, both to make ourselves available should they have concerns, but also to let them know if they have constituents who are concerned about the project, that they have a way to get in touch with us. We also spent a lot of time in Metcalfe County meeting with both neighboring landowners as well as different public officials, from the school board to the emergency management director. So we did take the time and effort to make ourselves really available to make sure that should they have any concerns that we would know and we'd be able to discuss.
And so when you had open houses, could you give us an estimate of how many actual residents attended those?
I think on the sign-in to our public information meeting, there were 39 people that actually signed in. There may have been more than that showed up that just didn't sign our sheet.
And is that an open house style where they sort of walk around, or do you guys give a presentation regarding the project?
We did open house style, so we had some poster boards with information set up. We also had a Google Earth projection of the project, so we could move around the project in real time if people wanted to see where their home was at in relation to the project or where different landmarks were in relation to the project. And we had both members of our team, our consultants, and multiple people from the project that would be able to answer questions.
What kind of concerns have you heard from local residents regarding this project?
Most of the concerns, to the extent there were any, were just regarding construction timeline, what that was going to be like, also concerns about just general solar panel safety, just from not knowing, the material makeup of a solar panel. So we were able to share some of that information with folks and make sure that they knew we were available if they had other concerns or other questions that came up.
And at that meeting, did you provide them with contact information if they did have questions to reach out?
Yes. We also have all contact information available on our website.
Can you tell us a little bit about your complaint resolution program, when that program will start, when residents will be able to actually contact someone if they had issues?
Yeah, definitely. Right now, I'm the person whose information is out there for anybody to look up, both my email and my cell number. When the project enters construction and operations, we'll have that formal complaint resolution program, and it'll have both contact information likely for a construction manager or an operations manager, as well as it'll detail the process for how those complaints will be processed. It should also give a timeline for how we'll address those and the timing that we're committing to respond to.
What's your timeline that you guys are committing to respond to those and resolve the issue?
I think we'll have to finalize that when we actually develop the formal plan. I know the draft plan that we've submitted for review, just as an example, is 30 days. Unless something should require extra time, then we would give a reason for why we need that extra time to respond.
And when that complaint resolution program begin, it will be that telephone contact information, am I correct, that it will be the actual construction manager there on site who will receive those phone calls?
It should be, yes.
And when you say that it will be active and ready prior to construction, is that at the very initial onset of construction, or is it going to be like a couple weeks before?
I would expect we'd have that finalized a couple weeks before, and we'd have it posted by the time we would be starting construction.
Are you the appropriate witness to talk a little bit about the setbacks?
I think I could start with the setbacks.
There was a motion for setbacks, motion regarding setbacks that was filed on May 16th that actually broke the project area down to 6 areas. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And it's Summer Shade position that none of those areas are residential areas?
Yes, ma'am.
In looking at staff requests, item 21 and 23, it was asked by Summer Shade that each, to provide a distance to the inverter substation and to the distance to the battery energy storage systems for each of the 6 areas. Those distances that were provided was only for area 1, 3, and 5. Do you think if we asked in a post-hearing data request that you would be able to include 2, 4, and 6?
Yes, yeah.
And looking at staff's first request, item 22, it looks like the closest non-participating resident is 93 feet. Is that correct? Do you recall that?
I would need to look at the map to
Okay.
recall it.
It's staff request 22. Staff request 1, item 22.
Yes.
Okay. And when you say it's 93 feet, is that 93 feet from where are you starting and where are you ending? Is it that from that non-participating landowner's fence line? Where are you starting? Or his front door, his or her front door?
I would defer to Shane on
Okay.
how that measurement was done.
What conversations have you had with that particular landowner?
If I could respond to that after, when I can look at a map of where that house is,
Okay.
I could give that response.
Okay, we'll ask that in a post-hearing data request. And that might be the same case for the next non-participating resident is 85 feet, I'm sorry, from the closest solar panel.
Okay.
Have you had any contact with that resident?
If I could look at the map,
Okay,
I could give
okay.
that response.
What mitigation measures, because those homes are so close to the project fencing and the solar arrays, what type of mitigation measures is Summer Shade suggesting for those particular properties?
Could I also respond to that when I look at the map? I think we'd be open to, the vegetative screening, again, anything that would be impactful during construction. We'd like to have those conversations to know what those concerns are if we haven't
Okay.
already.
But are you aware if you've had any conversations or you need to look at the map to refer?
I would need to look
Okay.
at the map.
Do we have a map, a particular version of a map
No,
that you could
it's-
request that could help you answer these?
Do you know,
Shane, you know
for response 22?
what we base those numbers, which particular property we base those on? Okay. We'll look for that and then be able to respond to that hopefully during this hearing.
Okay, we could take a break, or we could just allow her to question on other things while he's looking.
Whatever your preference is.
What's your preference?
You want to take a break and then she can look?
Sure, I think
Okay.
that'd
Fine.
be easier.
Yep.
Yep, let's do 15 minutes.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. We are back on the record in case number 2025-00064. And I think we were in the middle of cross by staff, so please continue. Do you have the map you need now?
I do.
Okay, I was asking you a question about the closest non-participating residence is 93 feet, from 93 feet. And I was asking you, what type of contact have you had or conversation have you had with that resident in that home?
Yes, ma'am. Okay, the map I'm referencing is from the noise study. So it's receptor R-02. We did have a project representative meet with that landowner and speak to them. They had no concerns about the project, even after we showed them about where our facilities would be in relation to their house. So we did have a conversation with that landowner.
Again, is that, and this is, I think you said was Mr. Kelly, when you indicated to them, did you talk about like the actual process, like the pile driving that's going to occur on the property, well, so close to the property?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. As far as a non-participating home, the closest non-participating home from the solar panel is 185 feet away. What conversations have you had with that landowner?
Still referencing the noise study map, that's receptor R-42. We made multiple attempts to meet with that landowner. They were never home whenever we tried to reach them. So we left project informational flyers at their door, at their porch, and their mailbox that had both information about the project as well as my contact information. They never did get in touch with us, and we were never able to meet with them in person.
Did you ever send certified letters to them?
Yes, ma'am.
Were those sent back to you undeliverable, or were they signed? Do you recall?
Not to my knowledge.
Not to your knowledge, they weren't returned or?
Weren't returned, correct.
The closest non-participating residence from the inverter is 721 feet away. What conversations have you had with that landowner?
I could give a response if we could confer on which receptor that was.
Sure.
Mr. Kelly's trying to look that up now.
Okay.
To see if it may be the same,
Okay.
the same residence that was discussed before.
Okay. We'll come back to that one. And he can look for the substation and the battery, the BESS also.
Yes.
According to staff request 58, it indicates there are going to be 74 residential homes that may have a view of the project. Do you know how many of those 74 homes are actual participating landowners?
Not off the top of my head.
Would you be able to provide that in a post-hearing data request?
Yes.
But not more than 13. There's 13 total.
Correct.
I'm looking at the consultant's report, BBC's report, page 4, section C. And in that report, it provides a couple pictures, but on page 24 and 25, this might be a question for Mr. Kelly.
I'm sorry, Ms. Carter, which section?
Section C, page 24 and 25 is two pictures.
Those are the ones you brought me.
It's on page 25. Is this home the closest home to the solar array? Do you recall?
That is not, if you're referencing the closest to the array being that R.
Okay.
O2.
And as far as, again, like the vegetative screening for, let's look at page 24, this home. And there's this is that, the road, the single lane road that's right in front of it. And this home, am I correct, is a non-participating home, right?
Correct.
How far is the closest array going to be from this home? Do you recall?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay. Could you provide that in the post-hearing data request?
Yes.
And also the project fencing?
Yes.
Could you explain to the siting board where this project is in the interconnection process?
Yes, so this project is in PJM's Transition Cluster 1. Cluster of projects, that's the most advanced cluster in the PJM system right now. So these are projects that entered the interconnection queue between 2020 and 2021, and they're expecting their final interconnection agreements in October of this year.
What studies have been completed for this project?
So this study has completed a feasibility study with PJM, as well as what they've called the System Impact Retool Study, which is specific to projects that were part of PJM's queue reform that transitioned into that Transition Cluster 1 process. We've also completed an affected system study with the TVA.
What studies still have to be complete?
So we've been alerted that Louisville Gas and Electric, which is also an affected system, is in the middle of their affected system study. They completed a preliminary study and are needing to restudy those projects, which includes ours. And we have yet to be tendered that final PJM agreement, the generator interconnection agreement, which would include our facility study.
Do you have a projection on when that will be completed?
We're expecting to receive those results this month, September 19th, according to PJM's latest schedule.
And when you receive those reports, will you provide those to the siting board?
Yes, ma'am.
Who will own the transmission line?
Summershade Solar.
What is the expected length of that Gentile line?
It's not to be more than 300 feet, is our expectation.
Who is going to be responsible for paying those interconnection costs?
That'll be the project.
Where is the transmission line going to start and where will the transmission line end?
So it would start at our project substation, and we're interconnecting into the existing EKPC Summershade substation.
Will that, have you guys considered an alternate route, or is the route that you have chosen the one that's been since the beginning of the project?
The route that we've shown on the site plan is our the most efficient route, the shortest distance from where our project substation is planned to be to where we expect EKPC to have an open bay for us. And again, that's both the most efficient route, but that is the route that's been considered since the beginning of the project.
Is that route, the transmission line, is it going to cross any participating or non-participating landowners' land?
No, it's completely within a parcel of land that we have an existing lease on.
Is the transmission line within 1 or 2 miles of any residential neighborhoods or schools?
No, ma'am.
And is it your testimony again that the substation is, there's already a pre-existing EKPC substation there?
Yes.
Does Summershade have any employees?
No, ma'am.
The person that signed the certificate of compliance was James Felix Cook. Is he employed by Candela Renewables?
Yes, ma'am.
Who will the EPC contractor be employed by?
They would be contracted by the project.
So is it going to be contracted by Summershade or Candela Renewables?
By Summershade Solar.
Who will hire the employees for construction?
So Summershade, we would be contracting out that responsibility to the EPC.
At what point of the process will the EPC contractor be hired?
Prior to construction.
Who will employ the EPC?
The project would sign the contract for the EPC.
Who will ensure that the EPC complies with the mitigation measures during construction?
It's my understanding that all the commitments made by the project also bind the EPC to follow those regulations.
Who will hire the employees for construction? Will it be the contractor or Candela Renewables?
The contractor.
What company will employ the individuals that will be responsible for ensuring compliance during construction?
So there would be several different bodies that would be responsible for compliance, whether it be the EPC or the O&M, but again, those would be contracted by the project.
What company will employ the individuals that will be responsible for ensuring compliance during operations?
That would be the project.
Is Candela Renewables owned, or is it a subsidiary of another company?
No, ma'am.
When they're in the application, it provides for an environmental violations record. In that section, it stated that no entity that had ownership interest has violated any state or federal environmental regulations. When that answer was provided for in the application, was that referring directly to Summer Shade, or was that only referring to, did it include Candela Renewables?
It includes Candela.
Candela, I'm sorry. So it's the position of Summer Shade that Candela does not have any type of environmental regulations, no pending administrative hearings?
Correct.
Has a PPA been executed for this project?
No, ma'am.
Is it expected that Candela will continue to operate this project after it becomes operational?
We can't commit to that at this time.
Can you explain the process that will be taken to ensure that the soil quality will be maintained so that it will be useful for agriculture after the operations of the project cease?
Could I defer that to Mr. DeRosa?
Could you tell us a little bit about the progress or the current state of the IRB or the pilot agreement between Metcalfe County and Summer Shade?
Yes, we've had several preliminary conversations with both the judge and the fiscal court, both to introduce the IRB and pilot in concept. They're familiar with IRBs and pilots. They'd executed one with the existing Glover Creek project. So we have had beginning conversations around what those projections are as provided by our tax counsel. And we're in the phases of negotiating what a presentable number may be to them.
What is Summer Shade's commitment as far as hiring local, as many local workers for this project as possible?
Yeah, so Summer Shade would definitely encourage hiring local workers. That's more advantageous both for the community, but also for the EPC, who will eventually be hiring those workers.
Is there going to be any language with the in the EPC contract that sort of reiterates the importance of hiring local workers for this project?
I think we can't commit to it, but we would absolutely encourage it.
How many full-time positions are going to be for this project after once it becomes operational?
I'll defer that to the project engineer.
To who?
The project engineer.
Okay. Have you received, again, going a little bit back to the outreach, have you received any emails or comments regarding this project?
Only received one email regarding the project.
And what was that email concerning?
It was concerning a property owner who adjoins the site that wanted to know if they would be liable if any trees from their property fell over our fence line.
Are you comfortable that the community and adjacent landowners actually have knowledge of this project?
Yes, ma'am.
Have there been any requests to add or change the vegetative buffer? I know you said that there was one landowner who didn't want a vegetative buffer, but besides that, have there been any requests to add additional vegetative screening?
No requests for additional screening. We have offered up vegetative screening that we think is more robust than typically seen in Kentucky projects, that being 3 rows of off-centered native evergreens. We have received questions on if there will be vegetative screening, and we answered yes to that, but we were targeting houses that we knew may have a view shed of the project.
Is there going to be, and if you can't answer this question, I can defer it to Mr. Kelly, is there going to be any vegetative screening that's already there that's going to be taken down or cleared?
So we're leaving all the existing screening where possible, with the exceptions of if it's impeding construction or operations.
And when you say where possible, are there particular areas that you know, like it's not going to be possible to leave that vegetative screening?
Not from memory. I'm sure there are a few areas where it's required to be cleared for construction. I'd have to defer that if you need exact areas.
Have there been any requests by the community, officials, local judge executives, mayors, magistrates, anyone, about changing the actual project location or
No.
layout?
No, ma'am.
I have no further questions at this time, Chair.
Okay, Commissioner Wood.
Madam Chair, can I interject just because there
Oh,
were a
you
few
wanna go
questions that,
back?
yeah, I think we can respond to a few questions that Ms. Carr had.
Oh, sure.
Maybe it'd be best to do that
Yeah,
now. I'll need
do you
to
have
show.
them handy, or do you want me to come back to you?
I think, did he find
Right
that?
before
Or I could
break?
lead into it. So it's my understanding that there were questions as to the local residences, the residences that are closest to the inverter,
Inverter.
substation, and battery storage. So in response to item 5 of the second request, we identified those particular receptors, and then I'm gonna show Ms. Muse the map that is in the noise study to point out which receptors there are.
Okay.
So with respect to the inverter, it's designated as R05, which is on sort of the southern end of the project. Are you familiar? I believe it's in area 6 that we put in our motion. Are
So-
you familiar with?
Are we moving back into direct here?
I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
I mean,
Okay, the closest
I
closest
would entertain the idea, but,
Sorry,
closest
yeah, you're
non-
absolutely correct.
The closest non-participating resident from the inverter was 721 feet.
Yeah.
What conversations have you had with that landowner?
Yeah, so referencing the noise study map, that's receptor R-05. We did meet with that landowner several times, both to introduce the project, explain where the facilities would be. No concerns from that landowner.
Okay. How about, what conversations have you had with the landowner regarding the battery energy storage system?
And just for reference, in response to item 5 of the second request, the closest receptor to the battery storage is R61.
R61, that's another neighbor where we had tried to meet several times, and we're never able to get a hold of them, but they would have had those informational flyers with contact information left in their mailbox at their door.
And so when the information that you left with them, did it indicate to them or let them know that a BES system was going to be so close to their home? Like, did they know that, or was it just a general letter saying information about the project.
It would have had information about the project, but it wouldn't have mentioned the distance to the battery specifically.
But it wouldn't included the distance, but did it include information that the battery storage system
Yes.
was going to be? Okay,
It did mention that it was a PV plus storage project.
okay, okay. Okay, the closest non-participating residence substation is 1,260 feet away. What conversations did you have with that landowner?
And this is designated as R66 on the map, again, from item 5 of the second response.
Okay, receptor R66, we did have a project representative who made contact with that landowner, who again would have left the informational flyer, would have explained where the project facilities would be. That residence is across the main highway and buffered by a pretty robust tree line. No concerns from that residence.
Okay. No further questions, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Now, Deputy Secretary Lyons.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of questions, Ms. Muse. I'm referring to request for information 33. It was a question about transmission line vegetative clearing, and you all responded that Corps of Engineers Section 7 consultation would have to be done. Do you know whether that has been completed or not?
So we've recently submitted our core application that would include that consultation.
Okay. Do you know about when you submitted that?
I believe the exact date would have been in the last week of August, very recently.
Okay, so knowing the Corps, it'll take a while to get an answer back probably. The only other question I have is, are you aware of whether a Phase 1 environmental assessment has been completed for this project?
Can I
I didn't
defer
see
that?
that in the,
I'll defer that to Witness Kelly.
okay, thank you. That's all I have, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hammond.
I have no questions for this witness, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Sure. Commissioner Wood?
Ms. Muse, have you decided what kind of panels you're going to use for this project yet?
We have not decided yet.
Mr. Coons testified that, I don't know if he said there would be 2 to 3, I assume that it was full-time employees associated with this project. Can you provide clarification for that, whether there will be any full-time employees associated with this project who will be located locally?
I don't have, his exact methodology understood. I would say 2 to 3 sounds reasonable, and of course our preference would be that they're local jobs.
Would they be just ground maintenance employees, or would they be maintenance of the wiring and panels employees, or do you know, do you know the nature of what their employment would be?
For those full-time operations job, the expectation is they would be more ground maintenance, possibly security type work.
You mentioned that there would be batteries associated with this project.
Yes.
Can you tell me how you decide whether or not there will be batteries associated with the project, or not going to be batteries?
Yeah, it's primarily a function of market demand, whether the grid and power purchasers are demanding batteries or requesting batteries. And we believe for this site and this project and the PJM system at large, like there is a need for capacity. So that's why this project is being proposed with a battery.
You mentioned that you were first in the queue at PJM.
Yes.
Is that right? How long have you been first in the queue?
Well, I wouldn't say first in the queue. I should clarify. We were first entered into the queue around, I believe, 2021 was our application date.
Have they been kicking that, have they been punting on that, kicking the can down the road in terms of giving you an interconnection agreement?
They've been moving slowly, but again, our project now is the part of the most advanced queue cluster in PJM. expecting those agreements next month.
Any reason to believe it's going to happen in October versus kicking the can down the road again?
I am hopeful it's coming in October.
No more questions.
Okay. So you said do not have a power purchase agreement already signed.
Correct.
Is it safe to assume you're in negotiations with someone to buy that power?
I can't say.
I can't imagine you would have gone to all this trouble to file this if you didn't think you could sell the power.
Correct.
And that place in the queue is a valuable thing. A lot of times at these hearings, the local folks want to know if they'll benefit from the power sales. Any information regarding that, whether locals might benefit?
I can't say directly whether the locals will benefit. I'll say that the power that's injected on the grid will support the PJM system, which is within this area's service territory.
There was a witness listed who, Mr. Woodruff, who is directly associated with community engagement, but I'll ask you the questions, if you can't answer some of them, we may ask that he be called. It is unusual to have this many landowners this close and no one objecting. So Ms. Carr has asked you a number of questions about whether these people actually know. Did everyone who is a neighboring landowner get a certified mail notification?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, nobody's was returned.
The only letter to my knowledge that was returned was the Goodson Chapel Church. That's located, I think if I can point it out to you. It would have been around the area of R72 on the noise study map. That's the only letter I'm aware of that was returned.
So no one picked up the certified mail for the church,
Correct.
as far as we can
Yeah.
tell. How far away are they?
The church.
2,000 feet by state statute, I believe, a church would have to be.
I believe that there were 6 churches identified. The one is closer than 2,000 feet. I believe the rest were over 1,900 or 2,000 feet away.
Regarding the closest residential neighborhoods, are you familiar with this commission's recent decision that had a bit of a different definition of residential neighborhood than maybe your application describes?
Not intimately familiar.
Is there another witness that could answer questions about that? And if you're the best one and don't know, we can ask in post-hearing data request.
Okay, I would prefer that.
Okay, you think you would be the best one and don't necessarily know?
Yes.
Okay. I'll tell you just a little bit. There was a definition proposed in a previous case whereby we use the total mass of a parcel, so if one parcel is 20 acres, and include all of that in whether or not there are 5 residences within 5 acres. And there would almost never be if we use a definition like that. So we were gonna look at them on a case-by-case basis. Obviously, if local landowners are expressing concern, that's gonna matter to us, you know, and if no one is, you know, maybe a definition like that would work, but, so we just want to make absolutely sure that these people knew and aren't complaining. Regarding the neighboring landowner who has offered to put the sheep on your property when needed to graze and forage, is that the local person who is offering the sheep, are they a lessee in this case?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Will there be some other financial compensation?
Under the terms of our agreement with them, there will be.
Are they one of the closest landowners?
Yes, ma'am.
You said that you couldn't commit to continuing to operate the facility once it's been constructed. Is it your expectation that you would transfer that to someone else for the operation?
I don't think we could commit to that at this time. It's typical for the projects to be sold and change ownership. Can't commit to what our outlook is right now.
Are there any common owners or any common ownership between the nearest solar facility that's 3/10 of a mile away and this facility?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I think that may be all the questions I have. Any redirect, sir?
I can just have a second to look through my notes.
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple of questions also, Chair.
Okay, well,
Nothing further from me.
okay. We won't really get a recross then. Do you-
Well, go ahead. No
Go
objection.
ahead, with no objection, while I'm going to ask some more questions.
We have, I'm looking at staff's second request, item 53, and that's a table that Summer Shade provided. And again, this table breaks down the motion for deviation, the 6 different areas that were provided. You might not know these distances, but we were requested in a post-hearing data response to know the distances for each of the residences to the closest boundary line, distance to the closest solar panel, to the nearest inverter, substation, and BESS system in a post-hearing data request. And that's all I have, Chair.
Okay. Any reason why this witness couldn't be excused?
No.
Thanks, ma'am. Thank you. You're excused. All right. Call your next witness.
Thank you. Our next witness is the project engineer, Alfonso Tovar.
Hello.
Hello.
Would you raise your right
Good
hand and be
morning.
sworn, please?
Yes,
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
yes.
Please have a seat. Tell us your full name and your business address.
Alfonso Tovar. My business address is 500 Sansom Street, San Francisco, California.
All right, counsel.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Tovar. By whom are you employed?
By Candela Renewables,
What is your title there?
Director of Engineering.
Can you describe to the siting board what your role is in this project?
Yes, my main role is to manage all the engineering aspects of this project, technical aspects.
And have you sponsored information that was contained in the application of this case as well as responses to data requests?
Yes.
And do you have any changes to that information that hasn't otherwise been provided to the siting board?
Not at this time.
Okay. And do you adopt that information as your testimony here today?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's all the questions I have at this time.
Okay, staff?
How many months do you anticipate that peak construction will last?
Peak construction, about 4 months.
And during peak construction, what construction activities will actually occur during that time?
People will be installing the trackers or the mounting structure for the modules and the modules themselves, and cabling or making some electrical connections.
Will pile driving occur during that time also?
No, that'll happen before.
Before? How long do you expect the period for the pile driving to actually happen? Like, how many months will that take for the whole project?
Between 1 to 2 months. It moves very fast.
And if that's the 1 to 2 months total for the whole project. So as you, I know the
Yes.
project area is broken down. Okay.
Correct, yes.
Can you explain whether the MV collection will be above ground or below ground?
Either way, it depends on the specific features they need to cross and potential requirements from the authorities or even the owners of those parcels
When will a decision be made regarding that?
at final design.
I'm sorry, what was your response?
Pardon me?
I didn't understand your
At
response.
final, it's feasible. It's not a problem. We can go underground or overhead.
How high will the bottom of the panels be from the ground?
Half a foot to a foot, depending on the specific area.
What will the ground cover be? I believe this question was could you give no. Ms. Muse answered this question regarding.
Yes, a mix between gravel and compacted native.
Operational life of the project.
Yeah, I'm sorry, could you repeat?
What will be done?
It is a live facility, so and that includes the roads.
What karst issues have arisen, or do you see that could be potentially an issue for this project?
Potential cars features, we have taken buffers to build around these ones, depending on the level of risk, right? We have defined high, medium, and low risk areas. They are very well contained, so we don't see any major impact or no impact at all to the plant throughout its lifetime.
What is going to be your setback from karst features?
If they are high risk, 150 feet minimum, medium risk, 75 feet, and low risk, potentially no buffer. Because low risk are suspected areas. They need to be confirmed before construction that they actually represent a risk.
Could you explain to the siting board a little bit about the monitoring that's going to occur for the battery energy storage system?
I'm sorry, the what?
The monitoring.
The batteries is an automated system, is actually very sophisticated monitoring of the health of the batteries 24/7. It's using electronic means, a computer basically, or a setup of computers. They are going to be sending the signals to the operations and building that is going to be inside, as well as to the remote center that is going to be under the operations and the asset manager of the project.
I know some of the concerns that have arisen with other projects that have a battery energy storage system is potential for fire. Say that a fire would start, could you walk the siting board through the process, like what would happen, who would be notified, etc.?
Yes. The automatic system is going to, even before a fire, right, there are a number of measures that happen that would prevent the fire to happen. But worst case scenario, fire is like worst case scenario. After all these different layers have failed, which is very unlikely, it can happen, but it's very unlikely. So once all these preliminary alarms fail and the fire starts, it sends the alarms, well, the alarms start happening since before. which starts with increase of temperature of the individual cells. So that's a first alarm that should be picked up by the local operation teams and the remote center as well. Let's assume worst case scenario, all these series of alarms are not picked up or something happens and the fire started, then the first thing is to isolate the event, right? Electrically, everything, all that around that area is shut off electrically. And then the local authorities, mostly the firefighters, are informed of the event. Their main role is to secure the perimeter area, not to intervene in the fire. The battery manufacturers are also notified of the situation. And the main goal is to maintain that area secure secure from access from people, and let the emergency plan enter into effect.
And you said before it even gets to a fire, there's a number of measures that are taken. For instance, the cells start heating up. And so who is and where is that person notified that we might start, the cells are potentially heating up or are heating up?
All these are automatic systems, so even the local operators will get an alarm in their cell phone. If it is a Sunday at 2 p.m., for example. If it is during the weekday, they are going to be at the operations building. And then the remote center is operated 24/7. There are always people there in the remote center.
And where is the remote center going to be located for this project?
Yeah, the remote center is going to be located depending on the asset manager that we select. These companies, that's what they do. They operate facilities, power generation facilities, and they have a center somewhere in the U.S., right? Like, I'm going to make an example. In our past projects, it's been Invenergy. Invenergy has a remote center in Chicago, and those centers are not are centers that are certified by NERC, so they meet all these requirements that allow them to monitor power generation facilities, including nuclear power plants.
This project has 16 access points. Could you discuss whether the traffic for deliveries is going to actually impact the local residents there?
No, we did a traffic study, and the results are that the impact is going to be minimal for the local residents.
I think I have no further questions, Chair.
Okay. Deputy Secretary Lyons?
Yes, just a couple. Good afternoon, Mr. Tovar. Feels like afternoon. I guess it's still morning technically. I want to ask a couple of questions about the geotech report, particularly about are you going to do driven piles or screw type?
Driven piles.
Okay, I was reading in the pile installation considerations that refusals could be encountered at a depth that wouldn't be suitable for the complete installation. What would you do in that particular situation if you did encounter a refusal that's short of the required depth?
Mm-hmm. That's correct. We drill.
You drill at that point?
Yeah, we drill at that point, and then we drive the pile after that.
Okay, I was looking at the soil borings map. Obviously, you can't practically drill a hole everywhere and check the depth and the geology across the project area. What would you do if you encountered a void or a vacant space in the intended line of the piling or the solar arrays, and you didn't have the stability you needed for a pile? What would you all do in that case?
Yes, before getting into that situation, this geotechnical study is still previous to construction. So before the construction company moves in, they are going to follow up with another geotechnical study that will increase the visibility or the resolution we have with the current study. They are going to go into the low risk or medium risk areas that we identified. So there are going to be further studies on these to avoid or eliminate the situation that you're describing. But let's assume effectively we are not going to be creating borings all over the site. If that situation happens, we'll just create a buffer around that.
Gotcha. So that's the additional investigation is that design level pull-out testing campaign that's referenced in the geotech. Is that what you're referencing?
Well, the pilot testing is slightly different. That's only to test the strength of the soils for the piles that are going to be driven. But together with that campaign, the construction company is going to continue doing a few more borings and a second geophysics campaign to try to identify potential voids that might have been, that perhaps were not identified in the first campaign, precisely to avoid the situation that you are describing. Now, yeah, the situation that you described could happen, although with a third campaign where the probability of that happening is extremely reduced. But if it were going to happen, then we'll have to create a buffer around that area.
Thank you, Mr. Tovar. No further questions, Madam Chair.
Okay, Mr. Hammack.
I have no questions, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Commissioner Wood.
Have you decided what kind of panels you're going to install on this project?
Not yet, but the reality is that there are not that many options. It's polycrystalline or monocrystalline modules or cadmium telluride, although that's unlikely. We'll use those.
Are there any plans to replace the panels midway through the project, or is that scheduled in the, I don't know, in the project plan at all?
No, not really. The degradation of the modules these days is very low, so we don't foresee any replacement of the modules.
What is the approximate degradation of the panels over time?
It's 0.4% per year.
0.4% per
Yeah.
year?
So even at 25 years, they're at 80% of, at least 80% of their initial power.
Is this a 75-year project, or is this a 40-year project, or how long?
40 years. That's the plan.
Very well. No more questions.
And at 40 years, you'd be at 80% degradation or 30
No,
years?
at 25.
25 years. Would
And
you?
that's a maximum. These days, we expect less than that. I mean, more power than 80%.
So at some point, you'd look at maybe replacing those if they're degrading down to 80% power?
No,
or-
no. They are going to be at 80% of their initial capacity, so they'll degrade only 20%.
Right, but you wouldn't replace them even if they lose 20% of their power?
No, because at 25 years, most of the initial investment has been recovered. So the cost of replacing them will be more than just leaving them producing at that capacity.
Gotcha. So you haven't decided for sure what sort of panels you would use, and you said there are very few options. I know that for tax incentive purposes, it matters whether they're sourced from this country. Are there sources in this country to obtain these panels
Yeah.
currently?
Yeah, let me go back a little bit to the other question. There are only two options, really. Monocrystalline, that's one technology, or cadmium telluride. Those are the only two technologies available for these type of projects, utility scale. So most likely we'll use monocrystalline modules. Now, where are they going to be sourced? We don't know yet. And the options, but the only thing we know is that they are going to be tier 1, top-notch modules, and there are only like 5 or 6 manufacturers that could offer that.
Is there an American option?
They are going to be assembled in the US, most likely.
And that might count.
Uh-huh, yes.
And I know we don't know. I'm asking you to speculate. A number of places in Kentucky that never used to flood have found themselves suddenly in the thousand-year floodplain, catastrophic flooding. Do you see that as an issue on this property?
No, we have the hilly terrain as a challenge for construction, and at the same time that hilly terrain is diverting the water to lowland areas that we're not using.
Okay.
So, no.
But that's been considered something you're taking into
We
account.
have a hydrological study in 2 phases, and the construction company is going to generate another one. The ones that we have are called pre-development hydrological studies, and the construction company will do a post-development hydrological study.
Hydrological, okay. And you're not probably the best witness to talk about wildlife impact?
Wildlife, no, I'll defer that to our environmental expert.
All right. That's all the questions I have. Any follow-up from other?
If I could just have one
Frederick?
clarification, I just want to make sure I understood you correctly, Mr. Tovar, in terms of degradation of the panels. You said that after how many years it would reach approximately 80% of efficiency?
80% of its initial capacity.
Okay.
25 years.
25 years.
That's by the data sheet.
Okay.
The reality is that they are going to have a higher capacity. Modules have become very good, actually.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. Any reason why this witness shouldn't be excused?
No, Chair.
All right.
So you're
Thank
excused.
you.
Thank you. Would you like to call your next witness?
Yes, thank you. Next witness is Shane Kelly.
Hi there. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Please have a seat. Tell us your full name and business address, please.
Yes, it's Shane Kelly, 9200 Shelbyville Road, Suite 800, Louisville, Kentucky, 40223.
Okay.
That's the hardest question.
Counsel.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Kelly. By whom are you employed?
Stantec Consulting,
And what is your title at Stantec?
senior biologist and project manager.
Can you describe the siting board, what your role has been with this project?
Yeah, so on Stantec's end, I've been our project manager, assisting putting together the siding board documentation, as well as managing getting all the studies, the background studies done, so noise, visual assessments, traffic, all of that. And then we also did all of the background environmental studies, so phase 1 ESA, habitat assessment, wetlands, T&E surveys for bats, things like that.
And did you prepare and assist in the preparation of information that was contained in the application in this matter, as well as sponsoring responses to data requests in this case?
Yes.
Do you have any changes to that information that hasn't otherwise been provided to the siting board?
No.
Okay. Do you adopt that information as your testimony here today?
Yes.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have at this time.
Okay, staff.
Yes, Mr. Kelly, what plants, shrubs, trees are going to be used as far as the vegetative screening for this
Yeah.
project?
Yeah, so we have 4 native species we're planning to plant. We've got eastern red cedar, white pine, magnolia, and American holly.
Is the vegetative screening going to be a combination of trees and shrubs, or is just going to be all trees, or it just depends on the location?
So we only have one type I know some projects have multiple different types where they've got shrubs. So we have one type, it's mostly trees, like holly bushes it'll grow like a tree, but they'll be a little shorter than some of the other species at max height. So they could be kind of shrubby, but generally they're all tree species.
What height are those trees going to be planted at?
So so they'll be planted at 6 feet is our specification.
Is it a possibility for those homes that are closer? And I'm looking at, again, it's the BBC report, section C, page 24, like this home right here we saw on our site visit, that's a non-participating home. What type of vegetation or vegetative buffer is going to be for this home?
So in our vegetative screening plan, we targeted all those non-participating landowners because we knew there were some that were close by, and so we wanted to sufficiently screen those. So we proposed 3 rows of offset native evergreen species with native grass seed mix below it. And so, in some of the cases I've been involved with, that's more robust than typical. Typically, it's 2 rows of offset. So since we knew we were going to be closer to some homes, we kind of upped the amount of effort we were putting into the visual screening.
And so, again, are those going to be planted at 6 feet?
Yeah, that's the plan as of now.
And so is it possible to plant them at 10 feet or 8 feet? I know it's probably a little bit more expensive, but is that a possibility?
It would depend on availability as well, not just cost, because, we have to look at what species, and the way we pick species partially is looking at nearby nurseries and seeing what they have available as well in native species. So it would depend on availability and how much they have available as well, because the smaller 6-foot species are more readily available. Mm-hmm. So it would depend on availability and cost as well. And don't want to speak for Candela on what they're willing to commit to, but.
Mm-hmm. So is it possible to contact area nurseries prior to construction, like now, like these are what we're going to be looking for? Is it a possibility for us to be able to get those at 8 feet?
It's certainly possible, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Will there be 2 acres of native pollinators?
Yes.
And going back a little bit to those native species, how long is it going to take for them to get to maturity?
So that's kind of a subjective question a little bit, just because maturity can vary in the different species as well as the climate. So depending on how much rain they get year over year, it would depend on, these species aren't just going to hit a certain age and stop growing. But the maximum height between the species is going to vary as well. So like white pine can get up to 75 feet tall. American holly will max out at like 40 feet. And then the rest of the species are kind of in that range from 40 to 75 feet. So at max height, which will take 20-ish years, they'll be anywhere from 40 to 75 feet tall.
What environmental studies have been completed for this project?
So we've done significant environmental studies. We did wetland delineation, a habitat assessment. We did a phase 1 ESA, and then we also followed it up with presence-absence surveys for bats. So we did a mist net survey. We did harp trapping surveys on the 2 caves that are present within the vicinity of the project, and then we also did an internal survey of one of the caves because of U.S. Fish's concern that with pile driving and it impacting the cave. So what we did is we surveyed the interior of it during the winter when bats are hibernating to both see what bats are using it in the winter and map the cave using survey grade material or survey grade instruments so that we could see which location the cave was going and make sure that it wasn't turning and going under where we're planning to pile drive.
How many acres are going to be cleared?
138.
And are any of those going to be mature trees or shrubs?
Yes.
The closest non-participating residence is 93 feet from the fencing. And for that particular residence, can you describe to the siting board what that vegetative screening is going to be or what it's going to look like for that home?
Yeah, it'll be the typical, so it'll be the 3 rows of offset evergreen species that's screened year round, planted at 6 feet at this time. And then those 4 same species we discussed.
And
And we do have visual assessments of those actual locations too that we provided.
as far as the closest solar panel is going to be 185 feet, is that going to be the same type of vegetative buffer for that
Yeah, so
home also?
there's two receptors. There's R2 and R42, and they'll both have that same vegetative screening. There's also some remaining vegetation some mature vegetation that will stay around those to assist with screening as well.
I think that's all the questions I have, Chair.
Okay. Deputy Secretary Lyons? This seems like
Yes,
your
thank
area.
you, Madam. Yeah, yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Mr. Kelly. I have some follow-ups to what Nicole just asked, but I do have some other unique questions as well. Let's start with the bat survey. First of all, I want to commend Stantec and Candela for a very extensive bat survey. It was very well done. And as a follow-up to what Nicole just asked, what can you tell us? You said you all did the MIST survey or MISTnet surveys and hibernaculum reviews during the winter to avoid some areas. I'm a little bit confused by what is on site and what is maybe off site. You all referred to, I think, Cave 1 and Cave 2.
Yes.
But I also saw a reference to Piercy Cave and Buzzard Nest Cave, as well as Shirley Cave in the cultural archaeological study. Can you clarify that for us, which caves are which?
Yeah. So Cave 1 is the one that's just outside the project boundary, kind of in the southwestern corner of the project.
That's where you found the tricolored bat?
Yes, we caught 2 tricolored bats at that one during fall harp trapping surveys. And then we also saw one during the hibernacula survey. And then Cave 2 is what is called Shirley Cave in the cultural report. So
Okay.
those 2 names are synonymous. And then Pearson and Buzzard Cave are off-site. I believe I measured them both at about, I think it was over, I can't remember exactly, but it was over 3,000 feet, if not further from the project boundary. So we identified them during we pulled the KSS database, the Speleological Society database, but we didn't actually investigate it because we don't have land access there. Also, we're kind of pretty far away from any impacts to those caves.
Mm-hmm. So Shirley Cave is Cave 1?
Yes.
Is that what you just said? What is Cave 2?
Or sorry, Shirley Cave is Cave 2. Cave 1 is an unnamed cave that we found during wetland delineation and habitat assessment surveys.
And that's the one that's like 465 feet away from the boundary?
Yes, and that's the one we did the internal hibernacula survey on.
What is Shirley? I mean, I didn't see much about Shirley Cave necessarily. Where is it at?
So it's in the north portion of the project. It'll be in a area that's remaining forested between a couple of panel arrays. And that area is very highly sloped. It's under a large kind of, it's more like, if you think of a cave, it's not your typical cave. It doesn't go very deep. It only goes like 100, 150 feet deep. More of a rock shelter, I would consider, than a cave in my professional opinion. But so we didn't have to do an internal survey on that one because you can see the back of the cave from the entrance. But we're keeping a large buffer on that one because there are some cultural artifacts and also just to not impact bat species.
Okay, thank you. Going back to the clearing of the 138 acres, I assume you'll do those during the winter time to avoid summer roosting of bats. Is that correct?
Yeah, that would be what we would recommend and what would do, yeah.
So, what kind of clearing, what will the disposal of the debris, how will that be taken care of?
I'm not sure exactly what Candelo's plan is, but typically it's they'll either mulch it or they'll sell off the high quality timber and then mulch what is left. But I'm not
Okay.
100% familiar with what Candelo's plan would be. Louis DeRosa may be able to speak to that.
Okay, if Mr. DeRosa can't answer, we'll just ask that in a post hearing data request. My interest obviously is whether it will be burned or not. That is allowed under air quality regulations up to 2 acres at a time, but that can sometimes cause a lot of complaints from locals, so we want to make sure that we know how that's going to be done.
Yes.
Okay, let's see here. Bear with me for a second. Oh, you mentioned that you did do a phase 1.
Yes, that's correct.
And this kind of leads me, and I did not see that in the record. Has that been submitted?
It should have been. If not, we can definitely submit it.
Yeah, I didn't see it in the record, but I could have missed it. It could have been an attachment to something I just missed.
Yeah, we can submit it as a post-hearing data request.
So were there any identified wrecks, recognized environmental conditions?
Yeah, we
discovered?
did have one. There was a 500-gallon leaking above-ground storage tank on the site that had petroleum in it, and we did find some soil staining. Typically, those impacts are fairly minimal, especially being a small tank, and petroleum isn't very mobile in soil media. So typically, the impacts are localized and don't spread very far. And they also degrade over time, so depending on the age of the tank, it may not even be hazardous at this point, but that's hard to say without testing it.
So phase 1 should have probably discovered, I don't know how extensive an area this large is combed over to find wrecks, but it's probably reasonable to assume that if there were abandoned oil wells, that should have been discovered by the phase 1. Would you agree with that?
Typically, yeah, that's something we're definitely looking for when we're out there.
Are you the witness to speak to the oil and gas wells?
Yes.
Okay. So there was a map provided in request for information, item 54 on the first request. And it showed, I thought the verbiage said 32 wells, but I think there were 31 dots on that map. Records were obtained from the Kentucky Geological Survey, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Did you all do a information request from our Division of Oil and Gas?
I believe so. I'd have to double check, but that KGS database does show like the status of most wells, not all of them.
Yeah, I think that's where we're going to run into some problems. If you didn't do that, I have checked with our staff in the regional office, Mr. Seth Parrish, and they took the map that you all provided and located all the records by the Division of Oil and Gas permit numbers. They had permit numbers for all of these. The good news is most were properly abandoned and plugged with a plugging affidavit. However, there are 9 that are not. I think 3 of those have been identified by the Division of Oil and Gas staff on site. I don't know exactly if that was some past survey or whether they went out since I asked them in the last couple of days. But there are 9 well sites that 6 of which we are going to see if we can locate. 3 of them we have located, and there's no plugging affidavits for any of those. So we have at least 3 known abandoned wells in the project area. that haven't been properly plugged. My question is, what would Candela propose to do about those particular wells? Any of those 9 that we identified, most certainly the 3 that we have identified.
Yeah, I would defer that to Louis DeRosa on what their plan is for those wells.
Okay. Would he be the one to also ask about mineral rights, I assume?
Yeah, I believe we've provided the Alta survey that, and are aware of what the mineral rights are on most, if not all, the parcels.
Okay.
But yeah, he would be better to answer that question than myself.
Are there any active leases?
I'm not sure on that.
Okay. All right, I'll reserve those questions for Mr. DeRosa. Would you be the one to ask about wetland delineation?
Yes.
Okay. A very extensive wetland delineation report, lots of water features on this project. I can't really remember how it compares to some of the others we've done over time, but there's plenty of water features on the site. What is the general, well, let me ask you to do this. Can you explain to us a little bit about waters of the U.S., current Kentucky law, and how Candela proposes to address jurisdictional waters?
Yeah, sure. So waters of the U.S., Kentucky typically defers their jurisdiction to Army Corps. And the Army Corps currently is taking jurisdiction over perennial streams, most intermittent streams, and then wetlands with a direct surface water connection, whether they're adjacent or they're connected to a stream that is a water of the U.S. They would consider those jurisdictional, but isolated wetlands or wetlands connected through an ephemeral channel would be considered non-jurisdictional. And then sometimes some intermittents can be considered non-jurisdictional depending on their length with an ephemeral channel connected to it, but it gets kind of in the weeds about that. And so Candela, we've worked closely with Candela to alter the design to reduce impacts to waters that we did find on site. Part of that was to reduce impacts, and mitigation cost payments can get expensive. Another part of that was to reduce our impacts below the nationwide permit threshold, so that our impacts were less than 0.5 acres, which is an easier permitting process just in general.
Would that just apply to waters of the U.S. or all water features?
All water features has been designed to try and avoid all water features as much as possible.
So will there be any mitigation payments on this?
There won't be, because we've redesigned multiple times to reduce the impacts of moving roads out of wetlands or reducing the amount of crossings that we're doing. So there won't be any mitigation payments because we're below that threshold with the nationwide permit.
And the nationwide permit is just basically for crossings, is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. All right, thank you, Mr. Kelly. Madam Chair, that's all the questions I have.
Okay, Mr. Hammack.
I have no questions, thank you.
All right, and Commissioner Witt.
Could you explain about just what you were last discussing, the threshold of the mitigation credits and all that?
Yes.
I'm not familiar with that part of the business. Would you explain sort of what you were talking about and what the threshold is and what those payments are?
Yeah, so anything over half an acre, you can't use a nationwide permit for, so you have to get an individual permit for the project. And so therefore, they would have to either pay into a mitigation bank and buy credits for their impacts, or they would have to do a stream restoration project themselves on land that's adjacent or in the project. That's an option. Typically, that's way more expensive than doing mitigation payments, so most project proponents don't opt for that. So typically, you you can buy those credits from a mitigation bank like Kentucky Fish. KDFWR has mitigation banks around the state that they sell credits from. So if you're below that threshold, and particularly if you're below like a 0.1 acres, then you don't have any mitigation. There's no payments there. You just have to get the approval from the Army Corps for your nationwide permit.
And is that for streams that are disturbed, or what is it that they're looking at?
Both, so both streams and wetlands. And that's only if it's jurisdictional, so perennial, intermittent streams and wetlands connected to those.
And that's only if you disturb the streams, or only if you cross them, or?
Yeah, only if you disturb them, but like you can put it in a crossing that doesn't disturb it. If you span the entire creek, they wouldn't consider that an impact. Or if your impacts are temporary, say you're crossing equipment through it or something like that, and then you can, reseed everything, and the impacts are only temporary. They don't consider those permanent impacts, so it doesn't add on to your total for impacts.
So the goal typically is just to avoid those streams altogether, so you don't have to have mitigation requirements?
Yes, yeah, ideally, like, if they didn't have an Army Corps permit, they wouldn't even have to do any of like the T&E surveys or the cultural stuff. So that's the easiest way, and then also keeping it below the individual permit threshold makes it easier than an individual permit.
Very well, thank you.
Yep.
Do you know if any of the local folks are currently hunting on this property? Has that been an indication?
I'm not aware of any of that.
Has anyone discussed having a wildlife corridor through the fence, or?
Not to my knowledge, but, as we've talked with these panels and the kind of spread out nature or the different panel array areas, it leaves a lot of wildlife corridors open where they're not clearing trees in between it. So it leaves, for deer, I know deer has come as an issue. We talked about in Lost City, things like that. Like they'll have pretty free passage through between the
So there
panels.
won't be a fence around the entire area?
Not around the entire area. It's only each array area.
Okay. So I think someone testified earlier, it's contiguous in that the parcels
Yes,
are.
correct.
But there will be non-contiguous fenced areas?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
And then we're also using wildlife fencing, so small mammals will be able to pass in and out of the project unimpeded as well.
Small mammals like rabbit-sized?
Rabbit, raccoon, things like that.
Okay. But as far as like deer, or, I don't think there's probably elk in Metcalf County, but I don't.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Deer wouldn't be able to, but they could, since we have these separate areas, they'll be able to pass through.
So,
Yeah,
that's not an issue for security, to not have the entire thing fenced?
not to my understanding.
Okay. As far as the caves, are they like large enough for people to get in there?
So the one I had some folks crawl back in it, including the developer, Aubrey went with them.
Crawling people?
Yeah, it was
Okay.
crawling, so it was kind of, I've been in the cave as well. We were kind of hunched down and eventually started crawling. So it goes back about 440 feet, I believe.
Okay,
And then it stops.
so that's fairly small for a Kentucky cave?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, it's not
There's a
like
lot of-
miles. So we mapped it with the survey grade material, so we understood where it was going and how long it was.
I was curious if like locals are used to like spelunking in that area, but,
No, that cave, it's on private property. It didn't seem like, and that property currently, nobody's living on it, so I don't think it's like we didn't see much disturbance in the cave either, like it's regularly used. It's not very obvious. We only found it because we were following streams to it, so
Okay.
I don't think it's like a local spelunking spot.
it's not like a local hangout that.
Yeah, they've got better options of caves around, I think.
Okay. Any further questions?
I had a couple more questions.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Kelly, when is landscaping proposed to be done? During construction, at the end of construction, the last stage?
So it'll be kind of staged with the project, so typically they'll go either north to south or south to north, and so they will be, as they're starting construction, say on the south end, the vegetation will be installed prior to that.
I'm looking at staff requests, first request, item 22, and data response that you sponsored. It provided a table with the distances from the nearest non-participating residents, from the fencing, the solar panel, closest inverter, and substation. And so, say for instance, the fencing has 93 feet. Where did you start and where did you end? Like, is it
So for the fencing, it was from the closest edge we could find using GIS, and then the closest corner of the house. And then same for panels, it was the closest corner of a panel we could find mapping versus the closest corner of the house.
As far as the inverter? Is it
Yeah, same
point?
with inverters. I mean, we only have points for those, so, you know, we took from that point to the closest corner of the house, and same for BESS and the substation as well.
Looking at staff request 1, item 97, data response which you sponsored, it states that Summer Shade will evaluate panel installation methods that does not include pile driving. Has that been done?
That I'm not, to my knowledge, but that may be a better question for somebody from Yandella, maybe Louis DeRosa.
Okay, all right. No further questions, Chair.
Okay, anyone else? All right, any redirect?
Just a couple questions. Mr. Kelly, I believe you were here present when Ms. Muse testified, is that correct?
Yes.
And there were some questions about a visual assessment. Did Stantec prepare a visual assessment for this project?
Yes, we did.
And is it your understanding that some of the two closest residential homes are included in that visual assessment?
Yeah, that's correct. VPO, so we provided a map also that shows locations, and VP05 and VP10 show very close, those photos are taken very close to those two receptors, and it should show like either their view across the road or behind the house, showing what the panels and screening at planting and at 5 years should look like.
And that visual assessment is provided in the site assessment report in Appendix E, correct?
Yes, correct.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Okay, any reason why this witness couldn't be excused?
No, Chair.
You're excused, sir,
Thank you all.
I am a bit inclined to just get the next 3 witnesses in and not do a lunch break today.
I think we all agree.
Okay, I would entertain low blood sugar issues or anything like that. I don't want anybody to get sick. How about we take just a break and then do your final, I think they may be short, right?
Yes.
All right, all right, if that's okay with everybody, let's do a 15-minute break and get back.
Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. We are back on the record in case number 2025-00064, Summer Shade Solar's application. Call your next witness, please.
Thank you. Our next witness is Jacob Poling.
Hi there.
Good afternoon.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
Yes.
Thank you. Please have a seat. Tell us your full name and your business address, please.
Jacob Poling, 733 Marquette Avenue, Suite 1000, Minneapolis, Minnesota, 55402.
All right, counsel, you may ask.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Poling. By whom are you employed?
Stantec Consulting,
What is your title there?
Senior Acoustician.
Okay. And what is your role in this project?
For this project, I was the technical reviewer for the noise study, and it was prepared by members on my team that I supervise.
Okay. And that noise study has been provided in the case record of this case, correct?
Yes.
And do you have any changes to that report that haven't otherwise been provided to the citing board?
No changes.
Okay. Do you adopt that information as your testimony here today?
Yes.
And likewise, you can also respond to questions related to data responses that were submitted in this case related to noise, but maybe under the name of Mr. Kelly, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Okay, staff?
Yes. It looks like the maximum sound level, what is the maximum sound level for the closest solar array?
During construction? the
During
maximum
construction,
sound-
yes.
At the nearest residence, the maximum sound level during pile driving was estimated to be 90 A-weighted decibels, or dBA.
And what was the sound level during the operational?
I'd have to look at the report. Let's see. Thank you. The highest estimated sound level for operational noise was 43 dBA.
And I'm looking at response to staff request 2, item 22, which is a table with the estimated pile driving sound level at each receptor. And according to that table, it looks like there are several homes that will be operating at the max at 90 dBA, is that correct?
Yeah, the two nearest residences to the panels where pile driving would occur at the same distance, so yeah, that's right.
And so we're looking at all, receptor 01, 02, at 90, R42, R93, and then we have a couple other that are like 87, 89 dBA, is that correct?
Yes.
I'm looking at table 5.1 from the sound study on page 4.
Yes.
And that table 5.1 is the residential neighborhoods within 2,000 feet. That's what the title of the sound study is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, that's the title.
And so you outline 6 different residential neighborhoods and title those with the distance. What criteria did you use to make a determination about which of these areas?
Is the question what criteria was used to determine if they're neighborhoods?
Yes, those neighborhoods that you outline.
I'd have to probably refer to Mr. Kelly for details on that. His team provided us with the results of that analysis.
The closest non-participating residence is 93 feet away. And so it says that you indicated it's going to be a 90, the maximum noise level. What is that comparable to, if you want to give an example to the citing board?
a sound level of 90 dBA. What's it comparable to? Let me first say that is the when I say maximum sound level, that's the instantaneous, like, happens, in an instant. It's not the continuous sound level that would happen during an equipment operating. So that would be in the case of pile driving when the hammer hits the pile, that highest level measured. 90 dBA, the probably easiest comparison is something like a music concert, being in the audience at a concert.
I don't have any more questions, Chair.
Okay. Deputy Secretary?
No questions for me, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Mr. Hammack?
No questions for me as well. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Wood?
No questions?
And I don't have questions either, so, any redirect?
No redirect.
All right. Any reason why this witness couldn't be excused? Thank you, sir. You're excused. Call your next witness.
Thank you. Our next witness is Louis DeRosa.
Mr. Grossa, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Please have a seat. Tell us your full name and business address, please.
Louis DeRosa, 500 Sansom Street, San Francisco, California.
Okay, Counsel.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. DeRosa. What is your title?
Senior Director of Siting and Permitting,
And that is with what company?
Candel Renewables.
Okay. And can you describe to the siting board what your involvement has been in this project?
I oversee permitting and environmental analysis across our whole portfolio, including this project.
Okay. And are you here today to adopt the responses of Mr. Roy Skinner as your testimony here today?
Yes.
And do you have any changes to those responses? Okay. Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Staff.
Just one question. Could you explain the process that will be taken to ensure that the soil quality will be maintained so that it will be useful for agriculture after the operations cease?
Yeah, so we will be encouraging native vegetation under the arrays. As you've heard, sheep grazing is a part of our maintenance strategy for this project. So that continued operation would require native grasses within the project arrays.
No further questions, Chair.
Okay. Deputy Secretary.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Mr. DeRosa. I assume you heard my questions to Mr. Kelly about the oil and gas wells a little earlier, but just to refresh our memories, I think in the record there was a response to a request for information that identified 31 wells on site obtained from Kentucky Geological Survey records. Several of those, the status was unknown. Majority of them, the status was thought to be abandoned or capped. Again, I have asked our Division of Oil and Gas here in the cabinet to take a look at these, and they provided me with a spreadsheet that did indicate that the majority of them are plugged and abandoned with the proper plugging affidavits provided. We identified those by their permit number, but there were 9 that there was no plugging affidavit on file. And we will have to investigate to see if we can find those wells. 3 of them have been identified. In 2 cases, there were visible indications of a well on site that has not been properly plugged. We call these abandoned orphan wells. We do have a plugging program in the cabinet. My question is, what does Candela expect to do with these wells, particularly the ones that we have found, and if we find any more? And I would just say for the record that a lot of times these wells are underground, but they can be in crop fields. Farmers find them all the time with equipment. But what would Candela propose to do with these wells?
Yeah, to the extent that we identify any orphaned wells out there, the project would have them properly abandoned.
Okay. Let's see if there was another question I had there. Oh, mineral rights. Can you tell us about the mineral rights within the project and what exists? Has Candela investigated that?
So unfortunately, I'm not the right person to speak to mineral rights on this project. I'd ask that we defer that to a post-hearing request.
Okay. The concern that I would have is that somebody still obtains mineral rights and conceivably could come back on site and drill a new well. So that would be, I think the question there, Madam Chair, is what is the disposition of any mineral rights that may still exist for this project and who has those? And Mr. DeRosa, do you know if there are any active leases?
I'm not familiar with that.
Okay. Again, another post-hearing data request there, Madam Chair.
For oil and gas?
Oil and
mineral
gas,
rights?
yes.
Okay, we'll make sure it gets asked.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's all I have.
Thank you, Deputy Secretary. Mr. Hammack,
No questions, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Commissioner Wood,
No questions.
I have a follow-up. If orphaned gas wells are located, identified on the property, you said you would have them properly abandoned. What is that process? How do you do that?
I'm not a oil and gas well abandonment expert, but they would be certainly properly capped and plugged and documented with the state.
I was wondering, like,
Madam Chair, if I may.
sure.
What that includes is pulling the casing and basically pouring concrete down the hole. And then,
And do you have to identify the owner and have them do that, or are you allowed to just do that?
well, if the owner is not the leasee, if the landowner is not the leasee or the company that was responsible for that, and there's no entity that we can identify that to be responsible, that could be covered under our orphan well plugging program.
Okay, so the cabinet.
So
can
that
do
may
it.
be, yeah, that may very well be the case. We actually contract companies to do this work.
Gotcha. I've called you as a witness accidentally, Deputy Secretary.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
I just figured I would chime in while I had the opportunity.
No better source. All right. Any further questions for this witness? Any redirect?
No redirect.
All right. If without objection, you're excused, sir. And final witness?
And we will call Mark Carney.
Good afternoon, Mr. Carney. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Thank you. Please have a seat and tell us your full business address and full name and business address.
Mark Carney, 22 Gray Fox Court, Middletown, Maryland, 21769.
Good afternoon, Mr. Carney. By whom are you employed?
E3RM LLC.
And what was your title there?
I'm Managing Director.
Okay. And can you describe to the siting board what your role has been with this project?
Basically been managing the consultants' reports and submittal of the application documents.
Okay. And did you provide information that has been submitted in this case as it relates to the application as well as sponsor responses to data requests?
Yes, I did.
Do you have any changes to that information that haven't otherwise been provided to the siting board?
No, I don't.
Do you adopt that information as your testimony here today?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's all the questions I have at this time.
Staff.
No further questions for him.
Deputy Secretary.
Yes, just one. Mr. Carney, I think I asked Mr. Kelly regarding how the vegetative clearing will be conducted. Can you expand on that?
Other than, I'm not an expert in that field, But other than the fact that we've identified 138 acres that need to be removed, my understanding is that would be done through typical timber removal process.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Mr. Hammack,
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner?
No questions.
Typical timber removal process, so logging and selling the logs, burning, clearing and burying, or what does typical
Again, like I said,
mean?
I'm not an expert, but yes, typical logging processes where you would remove the valuable wood material and sell it, move it off-site, and then anything that's left over would be cleared and grubbed, mulched as necessary.
Safe to assume that you would use a master logger or some sustainable timbering practices, or?
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Okay. And then part of your work here involved dealing with the state transportation departments as well?
Yes, I had a conversation with the regional permit.
Were any issues identified with some of the roads being too small to handle the trucks bringing in equipment for this project?
Not with the regional transportation cabinet, but I think the project engineer has looked at that and doing evaluations associated with what those roads look like and how they will be handled. We've also talked, Aubrey and I have reached out to the county road engineer to talk to him about implementing a road use maintenance agreement.
Okay. And were there any issues identified with the county roads as far as being too small or unable to accommodate the traffic or the size of the trucks coming through?
I had heard that they were, but I think that's one of the key items for us to have that discussion with the county, is to have them weigh in and identify if they see areas that need to be dealt with.
You've reached out to them, they know this is coming, they haven't necessarily identified issues to you yet?
No, not yet.
Okay. All right. Any follow-up questions from anyone? Redirect?
No redirect.
Okay. Sir, you're excused. Thank you. Is that your final witness?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's your case? All right.
Chair Hatton, I would like to recall Mr. Poley. I just have a couple questions for him about noise.
Yeah. Any objection?
No objection.
All right. And did anybody feel like that we needed to call the witness that we had on standby, Mr. Woodruff? Okay. Sir, you're still under, even though I did excuse you.
Understood.
Counsel.
Yeah, just a couple of questions regarding noise mitigation. We do have a non-participating home. It's going to be, the fencing is 93 feet away and the closest solar panel is 85 feet away. What specific mitigation measures as regarding sound is Summer Shade, going to use for this project?
Yeah, specifically for pile driving, I understand that they've had success on other projects in orienting the pile driver the way that they install it so that it directs more sound to the interior of the site. So that's one thing. Aside from that, if that's not enough reduction, I believe the semi-tractor trailer with the canvas approach is what they're considering.
Barring cost, is that the most effective sound mitigation measure that can be used?
Barring cost. Specifically for pile driving?
For pile driving, so if it was 93 feet away from your home, what type of sound mitigation measure would you want employed?
I mean, in general terms, the typical options are to select quieter equipment. That's an option, or you shield it using, blocking well, let's say, what they're talking about in orienting the equipment so it's louder in the direction away from the residences. That's a mitigation measure or an operational approach to reduce noise, and then shielding it by blocking the line of sight to the residents. So those are in general the options you have, yeah.
And so when you said shielding, that's the semi-tractor and canvas method or the sound blankets?
Yeah, correct, yes.
Which one, semi-tractor and canvas method or the sound blanket?
So it would be more of a solid obstacle. The sound blankets are typically applied to a fence, but they're massive enough to restrict sound from going through them, so they both are shielding.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all the question I have.
Okay. Anything further from any of the members, ad hoc members? Any redirect?
No redirect.
All right, so you're excused again. All right. Wraps up testimony. I don't think there were any additional exhibits today. We looked at some maps, but they were already in the record.
That's correct.
Okay. Any motions at this time?
None.
Our final order needs to be entered by October 26th to meet the statutory deadline. Staff, can you have written summary of your request out by September 11th? And if they did so, could you be able to respond by the 16th, Mr. Osterlo?
I believe so, based on what was requested. I know there was a discussion about visual simulations, which sometimes take a while to provide, but I think we've actually provided that information in the record. So
Okay.
I think 1 week would be sufficient.
And you got a heads up that before the 11th
Yep.
that we might be wanting that. As always, respond to all that you can and let us know when we expect to get complete answers.
Thank you.
If the parties want to do briefs, is it feasible to also have those out by September 16th?
Yes, we will endeavor to get that done by the 16th.
Optional brief.
Understood.
But yeah.
I know there's been a couple issues maybe that were discussed today that we may want to touch on, but
Okay. All right. Confidential materials getting dealt with in the open motion. Okay, if there's nothing further, then we'll adjourn.
thank you.
Thanks, everyone.